What's up, everyone? As you guys could have probably expected, inflation came in a little bit hotter than the market expectations, and I'll tell you, the market moved in a pretty whack way today. In this video, we're gonna go over exactly what happened in the stock market today, some of the best setups throughout the rest of the week, and towards the end of today's video, we have a big money trade you won't want to miss. But Tom, let's get right into today's episode.
Yeah, and guys, we're going to have some awesome plays in today's video, so stick around. But looking at it right now, Mike, that SPY was insane today. And looking at that 1 minute chart, we saw some insane volatility going up and down in pretty much all directions. I will say this was a total, I would say, like, disaster, in my opinion. I was not expecting it to move like this, and I did not want this type of movement. Although you could have caught some pretty good day trades, is pretty much all the big supports and resistances that we've been talking about had a lot of hits. So we can see like 410 today. There was multiple bounces right around 409, 410. We even had a couple intraday hits around 412.50, which we've had plotted. And then we have 414.50 to 415 up at the top, which again, another hit up there. So lots of opportunities today and lots of volatility, but it was just like a roller coaster again, Mike. And this was one of the more volatile intraday moves that I've seen in a while. So, and it wasn't really volatile in the sense like we just flew up or flew down. It was just volatile in both directions. So crazy stuff. And we had that CPI data come out just a little bit hotter than expected. They were expecting it to fall down to around 6.2 or 6.3%, and it ended up coming in at 6.4% on the overall inflation number. And looking at the chart, you can tell how that's a lot flatter than the recent drops, and that might spook some investors, I feel like, Mike. I think that's why it was so choppy today.
Yeah, it was, like you said, it was a total chop fest. And, also, like you said, inflation came in a little hotter than expected. I know those damn egg prices have been booming, but what else is actually causing this or not, I don't want to say like rapid anymore, but what else is causing inflation to be hotter than expectations?
Yeah, so NPR put out a great article here, and they talked about a lot of stuff here, but, they did talk about how some stuff is actually decreasing prices as well. But right now, they're saying notable increases in prices between December 2022 and January 2023 were eggs, which we've talked about before, Mike, obviously, natural gas, which makes sense with everything in Europe and Russia and everything, men's underwear and pajamas, which caught me off guard by a lot, actually, tax preparation, which also caught me off guard. But hey, I guess with the IRS implementing all these new rules and everything, it might make some sense. Plus inflation, gas prices are also costing people a little bit more recently as well. But there were some decreases, like in health insurance, airfares, and actually used cars were actually falling down a little bit within that month there. So very interesting, Mike, to see kind of what exactly is going up. And I thought eggs was an interesting one because, as we know, a lot of those things at the supermarket have been going up, not just eggs. I feel like this list, obviously, they're not showing everything, but they're just showing more of the notable things here.
You know it. What I guess you could say is a good thing is, even though we saw just insane price explosions at the grocery store over the past year or so, there are signs of food prices actually slowing down. So what's interesting is that over, let's say, like the past year or so, surprisingly, like, let's say we look at oil stocks just to start out. Let's say we look at, I guess you could say more specifically, crude oil futures. That would be a better gauge. Crude oil futures have actually been falling from their highs back in, like, I guess you could say March to May of last year, which is a good thing. But we're also seeing like the commodities themselves at relatively low prices, whether it's wheat or even like corn futures or soybeans or anything like that. A lot of these commodities are actually at pretty low levels overall, which will eventually translate into lower, food prices, which is a great thing. And what goes hand in hand with that is the price of fertilizer. So if we look at some of these stocks that deal a lot with fertilizer, whether it be NTR or MOS, those are some of the biggest ones, they've actually been pulling back a little bit as well. And, this is actually a good thing because it shows that I guess you could say rapid price increases from food should start to slow down going forward as all these commodities decrease in value, as well as the price of fertilizer.
Yeah, and I really hope it does, because I'll tell you what, Mike, it's been hitting my pocketbook a little bit. Not that it's like too worrying or anything like that. That's why I think the economy is still in a pretty good spot, because I don't think that they've necessarily went up too much for people to not handle yet. But I still think it's obviously bad, and it's really hurting a lot of people, obviously, with like larger families, where you have to feed multiple people and stuff like that. So it makes a lot of sense. And these fertilizer companies are definitely interesting. I know that some of these stocks like Mosaic were flying up during the Ukraine situation, or especially at the beginning of that, as like all those prices were flying up and everything. And yeah, like you said, they're starting to consolidate now, just like all those other commodities. It is just very interesting to look at like MOS, NTR, and other stocks like that, because I feel like, Mike, like that whole situation with Ukraine really drove like a lot of volatility in, and I'm really glad to see it kind of pulling back, and they're all starting to like kind of bounce off supports now. And what I like is that the Ukraine situation just kind of brought these stocks into the spotlight. Like, I'll be honest, I never heard of Mosaic before before that big explosion back there.
Yeah, I know, the war in Ukraine had a big impact in the world in many ways, but I know they do a lot with, I guess you could say just like farming over there, especially with wheat and fertilizer and all that good stuff. So it's definitely been a crazy past couple of years. But for tomorrow in the market, Tom, we still have a couple stocks set to report some pretty big earnings. What's on the schedule?
Yeah, it's going to be a big day for earnings. So watch Roblox in the morning, guys. I know we talk about that one a lot. So RBLX to start it off will be pretty huge. Even Kraft Heinz and Barrick Gold. Kraft is one of those food stocks. So maybe they'll talk about, some of the food prices and stuff like that. Biogen reports in the morning. BIIB, one of the big healthcare stocks out there. And then after close, Mike, it's actually, in my opinion, my favorite day tomorrow, with Shopify, Roku, Cisco, Twilio, Marathon Oil, and After Hours. I mean, that's insane. Those are a lot of huge stocks. I know my favorite DraftKings is there on Thursday, but I will say tomorrow's probably the biggest day, just given all these huge companies coming in.
There we go. Yeah, so it should be a pretty exciting day. For tomorrow, I will say my favorite one will be Shopify. They've actually been running up in a pretty strong way over the past couple months, and they're a pretty good mover most of the time. And then, Shopify reports in after hours tomorrow, so I guess you could say around open tomorrow. I'm going to have a really close eye on Roblox. This stock also tends to be pretty volatile, and it does have some pretty good moves every now and then.
Yeah, and actually Roblox just had a really nice support bounce around 34. So if they continue to hold there and maybe have some good momentum, that could end up being a very, very fun play. But there's a lot of big ones coming up. So guys, just screenshot this if you want to, see all the big earnings for tomorrow. I will say, Mike, on that Shopify chart, we can't forget there was a lot of money put into some calls a little while ago. Looks like the 30 strike calls had $37 million go into them back on January 18th. So watch out. It's already been flying up a lot since then. And if these earnings end up exploding them up even more, it could even be an even better play. And Mike, I'm kind of curious, are they still holding these calls?
Yes, they are, Tom, which is very good to see. They've, like you said, they got in them on January 18th, and they've been holding strong.
Yeah, that's huge. I'm going to actually circle down here right where they got in, because, guys, they almost caught the bottom here, or at least they caught it right before this recent gap up. So definitely keep your eyes on Shopify. That's going to be a big report, but there's a lot of big other ones tomorrow as well. But Mike, I know like everybody's obviously watching the SPY right now. It's still kind of stuck in the same range that we've been talking about for the past few days. I'm still watching the same resistance level from yesterday, right around 414.50 to the upside to 415. There's just been a lot of hits right around here over the past couple weeks. So that's a big level to watch for tomorrow. I hate to say it, but I have a weird feeling the SPY might start to sell back off. We just saw a lot of selling pressure today with that higher inflation reading coming in. I will say, though, it was surprising to see a recovery at the end of the day. It was just so up and down. It was a chop fest, like we said at the beginning of the video.
Well, check out the heat map. It was a very, very unique day in the sense of we saw some stocks just rip to the upside, like Tesla, that was up 7.5%. We had Nvidia up over 5%, and a couple other stocks moved in a decent way. But for the most part, most stocks either did nothing or they actually fell. Look at all those health stocks that tanked down. A lot of the finance stocks tanked down as well. And some of these powerhouse stocks like Apple, Google, Amazon, and stuff like that didn't really do anything today.
Yeah, exactly. Most of them were flat. I will say I kind of expected some green to start to come into the market whenever I started to see Tesla and Nvidia popping up this morning. And whenever I started to see some of these stocks explode intraday, it was awesome to see that movement. But then some other stocks were down. So very mixed day overall. I'm going to really be watching some of these tomorrow. Tesla was actually one of my favorites today, Mike. They broke out above 200 and had a very nice explosion. That was one of the best intraday moves. And I will say, we actually both put down Palantir as one of our favorite stocks. This was one of the best post earnings continuation plays I saw today in a little while, especially considering how the market was pulling back there in the morning. And it looks like it's sitting right around that, after hours high from yesterday, right around 930. So what a stock, Mike. What a day for Palantir. And we both love this one for tomorrow.
Yeah, so let's talk about it more. I know a bunch of people were looking at it today. So they reported earnings yesterday. We covered this in yesterday's video. Basically, they had their first official profitable quarter, which is awesome to see. Palantir is a growth stock that has had wild moves over the past couple years. Looking at its chart over, let's just say the past couple years, it has lows of around $5.84 back in January of this year, and it has highs of $45 per share all the way back in January of 2021. So to say the least, this stock moves in some crazy ways, but it also has a lot of potential going forward in the future. They're a very interesting company. They have a lot to do with artificial intelligence, and they're just a very unique company that arguably doesn't have too many competitors, but either way, the stock has been moving in a great way in the short term. I love how much momentum it has. And Tom, if we look intraday on Palantir, you'll see that around open, there was actually a decent amount of selling pressure and it was kind of choppy. But as the day went on, buyers stepped in and it was like a very constant flow of buyers that just rushed in the stock towards the end of the day. And, I'll tell you, like normally in these situations, we do see earnings continuation. So as long as the market holds up and no crazy news comes out with the market or Palantir, there is potential for an earnings continuation here.
Yeah, there definitely is. I love this play, Mike. It's one of my favorites, and I love that double top here right around like 930 to 935. So I'll definitely be watching it for a nice breakout tomorrow. It's one of my favorite plays, and I was watching it all day today on the live stream. It seemed like everybody was really hyped up about Palantir today. And hey, I love it. First profitable quarter in their history. So hey, we'll take that, Mike. And hey, that's awesome for all the long-term shareholders out there. I know we have a lot of people in the Discord who are holding them, like Cornish and Keisha and many others. So hopefully we continue to see some of these very nice moves back to the upside here. But my second play is also going to be another breakout play, Mike, with NVIDIA. I will say NVIDIA was another stock that flew up today, just like we looked at on the heat map. NVIDIA was up and Tesla were two very notable ones. So I'm going to watch them also for a double top right around their high of day, right around 230.25. It's very close to there, give or take a few cents, but I will be watching it. Just like you said before, if the market continues up, NVIDIA should be a pretty good one.
Alrighty, sounds good. Another stock I'm watching pretty closely is Tilray. So this stock is a wild stock. It's a marijuana stock that moves in crazier ways than you could possibly imagine. This stock is like the definition of volatile. But anyways, right now it's lingering right around $3 per share. This stock moves in some very crazy ways every now and then, but it needs volume to run. Like if it's like barely up tomorrow, like let's say it's up 2% and there's no volume, it'll be really hard for this stock to run. But if there's a lot of volume flowing into this company and the stock's actually moving with momentum, it has potential. So that's what I will be eyeing up for tomorrow. I don't have necessarily a specific, price point, like to be very specific. But as an area, I would like to see it break above like 305 to like 310. And if it rips above that with solid volume, I think it has potential to run further. But like I said, it's kind of subjective because you need that good volume and you need that power there to make it go higher.
Yeah, you really do. And a lot of times these stocks run off of a lot of news. And I will say it seems like right now, just looking at Tilray's daily chart, they are definitely down a lot in the shorter term, Mike. So I'll make sure to keep them on the radar too. I feel like they could maybe be a pretty good like little swing play here if we do see these stocks start to come back, because that recent dip was actually pretty bad. They pulled back from like 360 all the way back down to 280. So that was a pretty respectable pullback there.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, Tom, it's now time for the momentum plays. With today's first one, we have CrowdStrike to the upside.
CrowdStrike, yeah, they had a very nice day. Also kind of double topping here. Go ahead and make them break above that high of day, which is very close to 116.65.
All right, with the next one, we have Zoom, also to the upside.
ZM, yeah, one of our favorites. We've talked about Zoom for a long time here. Go ahead and make them break above 78.50.
All right, with the last one, we have CSX to the downside.
CSX. This one was awesome today. If you guys haven't checked out Mike's intraday video from today, seriously, right after you're done watching this, check it out. You guys will love it. But watch for CSX to fall below their double bottom right around $30.90.
Yeah, so I will attach the video in the comment section and the link in the description if you guys want to check it out. But yeah, we're watching CSX for potential day trade to the downside tomorrow, only if it breaks below that lower level Tom listed. And then you can't forget about Zoom and CrowdStrike for the upper levels. If they break above those levels, we are watching them for potential day trade to the upside. But it is now time for my favorite part of the video, and that is the big money trade of the day. Today we had $500,000 go into the GOOS 20 strike call options that expire on January 17th of 2025. So these ones have some time, but I actually think it's a pretty good play. So if we look at GOOS on, the daily chart or even longer term, we can see this stock has had quite the swings. This is Canada Goose. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of this company. They deal a lot with apparel and all that good stuff. But this stock is like a giant roller coaster. This stock has been a giant roller coaster over the years. It has lows of around $13 a share that it made back in March of 2020 with the COVID crash. And it has highs of $72 a share that it made back in November of 2018. And right now it's sitting right around $20 a share. There's a lot of volume coming into play right now, not only on the options, but also on the stock. What's also worth noting is that for this big money play that we're talking about today, someone's betting, $500,000 that this stock is going to rise going forward. I think there's a very, very, very low probability that this is a covered call, given it's at the money and it has all the way till 2025. So for my people who don't trade options out there, what that basically means is someone's betting that this stock has a lot of potential to rise in the future. What's also worth noting is that this option has a lot of time, so don't freak out if the stock's down tomorrow, but, over the next couple weeks and months and, over the next year or so, look at GOS potentially in a bullish way.
Yeah, definitely. I like this play, Mike. I actually, I feel like I'm a bit of like a hermit, or like I live under a rock or something. I hadn't heard of this company until today, and I started looking them up, and it seemed very interesting. And when I look at the stock, honestly, the stock is more interesting to me than even like what they sell. They sell some pretty cool looking apparel. Like you said, this is actually quite a bit of money going into this. There's a lot of time. And what I'll say is there is some very key levels on this stock that we've seen actually ever since they hit the market. So they actually made a support all the way back when they first started trading in April of 17, around $15. And they've bounced off of this 2 other times. And they actually recently just touched that. And they had a high in 2017, right around $25. And I've noticed that there's been a ton of price action around this $25 area, especially over the past year. We've seen multiple rejections right around there, even recently. So I'll definitely keep this on the radar, Mike. Very interesting company. I think that it's pretty cool, the apparel they sell and everything. And yeah, I'll definitely keep it on the radar, especially with someone putting 500 grand in it. It's not the most money I've ever seen, but what I do like is they have a lot of time, which makes me think that they're bullish on this for the long term. And with this stock being so low, I feel like it's at a good point to buy it for the long term, especially looking at its historical price action.
Yeah, there we go. All right, well, Tom, for tomorrow, we have the market in an interesting point. We had relatively hot inflation data today. We had some stocks carry the market on their back, like Tesla and Nvidia. Going into tomorrow, do you have anything else that you're watching closely?
Yeah, mainly it's Tesla, Nvidia. I will say I'm still keeping some of these AI stocks on the radar as well. Like for example, AI, the actual company, I noticed they had a pretty good move today. A lot of these growth stocks were running up. You know, I noticed like Shopify closed green. Rivian was actually up in the green. DoorDash was green. It was actually a very green day for the growth stock. So I'll keep them all on the radar. I really like that play that I had earlier with NVIDIA, Mike, well, with that double top. And I really like Palantir as well. I think watching Palantir for the next couple days could be extremely beneficial, especially for a lot of you day traders out there. So keep it on the radar.
There we go. Last but not least, we want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, A Lead in the Stocked Up Discord chat. You're very new to the chat, but you're super active. So huge shout out to you, and definitely make sure to keep up that activity. Guys, if you have not seen the video I made today about the crazy chemical spill that we have going on in Ohio, definitely check it out. It's on the screen right now. It's one of the craziest events that we've seen in some time. So there's going to be multiple important environmental effects, but also some pretty big effects in the stock market. It's definitely worth checking out. Again, it's on the screen right here.